Let's look into this abortion law. There's been a lot of talk in the news this week about late-term abortion in Virginia and New York. And, of course, the yearbook scandal with the governor of Virginia, Northam. Was it Ralph Northam? Something Northam. We're going to be talking about that, too. A family was watched through Nest security cameras. Someone apparently hacked their security cameras and was like talking to their newborn. Crazy stuff. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna talk about the Jussie Smollett thing. That attack. I've looked into it a little bit. We'll see what the most up-to-date information is after we look at a couple of videos I set aside. And yeah, we're gonna get started. Probably look at a couple other things that I was reading on Judge Report yesterday. There's a couple of interesting articles I could at least mention. Actually, I'm gonna play. Yeah, let's play this. Let's play this video. I do need to grab a bit of water though, real quick. At some point.
New York abortion laws heading in opposite directions.
That New York abortion law that you may have heard about in the last 24 hours, well, we've noticed it getting a lot of talk on social media. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signing the Reproductive Health Act on Tuesday. It defines abortion as a fundamental right and allows late-term abortions after 24 weeks if the mother's life or health is at risk or the fetus will not survive.
Hey, Corey, thank you. Yeah, the music is by AM Breakups. He's a underground producer here in New York City. Definitely check out his music at ambreakups.bandcamp.com. I'm gonna restart this video because I'm not sure if the audio was at the right volume, so just play it again.
Abortion laws heading in opposite directions.
That New York abortion law that you may have heard about in the last 24 hours, well, we've noticed it getting a lot of talk on social media. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signing the Reproductive Health Act on Tuesday. It defines abortion as a fundamental right and allows late-term abortions after 24 weeks if the mother's life or health is at risk or the fetus will not survive.
Here in Tennessee, rules have been going the other way, rolling the time limit back to 20 weeks and enacting an amendment stating that nothing in Tennessee's Constitution gives a right to abortion or abortion funding.
Our top story tonight, WATE 6 on your side reporter Blake Stevens looking at the laws and the responses on both sides of this issue.
Blake joins us in the studio. So, Blake, what are you hearing?
Well, guys, as you can imagine, this is a very heated issue in our
Really?
area. Now, in Tennessee, an abortion has to be done by a doctor. In New York now, it can be done by a nurse practitioner, even a physician's assistant. Both states have provisions for post-viability abortions if it impacts a woman's life or her health. For Kimberly Bradford, who volunteers for Planned Parenthood, abortion is a right set by the Supreme Court. She believes the decision should be up to a woman and her doctor alone.
I think the misconceptions here is that somebody's, rolling up to the hospital a week before they're due saying, I don't want this baby anymore, and that's not reality.
Pastor Rich Elsrode is pro-life, crediting his faith in the Bible and in science.
I think there ought to be compassion for those who find themselves in this position, right? But at the same time, just like other laws, I think we need to protect life. And this is life. For most Christians, this is considered a matter of life and death.
While Bradford respects the other view, she thinks Tennessee is too strict when it comes to abortion access.
I would say that you can believe what you want to believe personally. You can have your religious beliefs, but the idea that your personal belief would impede a woman's right that she has...
It's a Planned Parenthood volunteer, by the way, that just had that on screen.
...has been given, and a woman's medical decisions made between her and her doctor isn't fair, and that's not okay.
The key to overcoming this disagreement for this pastor is prayer and compassion.
There have been women in my congregations, I've had two, one in Alabama, and I've been here 25 years, that have had abortions. and we don't ostracize them.
Both Bradford and Pastor Rich believe in a civil discussion on this debate. I should add, the pastor holds a different view if a woman is in danger due to a pregnancy. And a few additional facts about Tennessee. There is a 48-hour waiting period on abortions, and it's illegal in the state to coerce someone into having an abortion. Just a few differences between Tennessee and the other states, guys.
All right, Blake. Now, abortion also an issue on the mind of Tennessee's newest senator, Marsha Blackburn.
Senator Black.
Why is this video titled New York abortion law stirs debate and then like half the video is about Tennessee? I feel like this is not the best video to explain what's going on with New York. How's the audio sounding? Is the audio okay? New York. I don't know what you're talking about them being MILFs, man. They were not. They were not. That's for me, man. I wouldn't. Oh, man. New York bishop calls out Cuomo over state's new abortion law and goes way beyond Roe versus Wade.
Well, the left celebrating this week when New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed what they deemed to be a historic pro-abortion bill.
This message is going to do the same thing. This has been too long coming, and it's been too obvious and too unfair. Women's equality in the law and in the Constitution for all.
But many Catholics were outraged by the bill, which granted more access to and late-term abortions. Bishop of Albany, the most Reverend Edward Scharfenberger, joins us now. Reverend, so first of all, let's get your reaction to this new bill.
Well, as you just said very well, it was a celebration of abortion, which to me is a celebration of death. It's a dehumanization of a whole class of human beings in our society. The child in the womb, who clearly is a human subject from the moment of conception. All the science proves that. So even though it has been advertised as a bill that brings more equality to women, it excludes a certain class of women, the unborn. Half of all abortions are females. So I do not see it something that I would celebrate. As a matter of fact, it extends, actually it takes away protections that previously we had. And in no way is it, as many of its proponents say, a tracking Roe versus Wade. It goes way beyond Roe versus Wade in so many ways.
Bishop,
so certainly I don't see it something to celebrate.
Bishop, the governor has talked about his faith. He talked about...
I can agree with you there. This one's actually somewhat attractive, at least. Although she looks like a trap, possibly. Look at those calves. I don't know, man. She could be a trap. Look at those. Those look like man legs. I don't know. She could be a trap, man. Let's stick to the topic. Let's stick to the topic.
The faith during the State of the State. We want to hear what he had to say about that and then get your reaction on the other side.
Yeah.
I happen to be Roman Catholic. I'm a former altar boy, and my relationship with the church is important to me. And
Hey, thanks for the follow, Corey.
I've found the
Where you from, buddy?
differences painful over the years.
How does that square, how does this Catholic faith square with this new pro-abortion bill that he celebrated in the name of women's equality this week?
Well, as his words are in themselves, many Catholics have differences with the church on a number of issues, but this is a very radical separation from the Catholic communion in the way that he presents this, not only as something which is a matter of law, but also as something which actually distances him from one of the basic moral teachings of our church, and that is the sanctity of all human life. And of course, Pope Francis has been very outspoken, even before he was Pope back in his native country, about the sanctity of all human life. So although the governor understandably would like Francis, in this regard, he is light years away.
Bishop, walk me through the mindset, though, because it's one thing to be a reluctant advocate for women to make a choice early on in their pregnancy and say, I think there's a right for abortion. It's another thing to celebrate bringing on late-term abortions. What is, I mean,
To me, they're the same thing, but they're light years apart. What is the mindset that celebrates versus reluctantly argues for it?
I wish I could understand that. Personally, I can't get into the mind of heart. It may be some form of denial. It may be something else. And I don't know what is actually in that mindset that does not see. I mean, the kind of procedures that now are possible in New York State, we wouldn't even do to a dog or a cat in a similar situation. It's torture. And as you probably are aware, Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who formerly was described himself as an abortionist and performed many, many abortions, was not a man of the Catholic faith, but came to recognize the humanity of the unborn that he was aborting. And of course, he famously produced a documentary called The Scream, in which he detailed the incredible pain that a human being feels in the womb,
Democrat
even at early
Virginia
stage.
Governor Ralph Northam is facing fierce backlash. This morning, he defended a new abortion bill introduced by Democrats. The bill would legalize abortion up until birth. Joining me now is Kristen Day, Executive Director of Democrats for Life of America. Kristen, welcome back to our broadcast.
Thank you for having me on.
I want to read what the governor said this morning on a radio interview. It's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's not viable. If a mother's in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered, the infant would be kept comfortable, the infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and family desired, and then a discussion would ensue between physicians and the mother.
There's
Your
actually
thoughts?
a clip of that, isn't
My
there? Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, that's the, we're skipping ahead a little bit. That's the, what that guy Northam said.
No exception. There was a very no exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you first thing I would say is this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
And do you think multiple physicians should have to weigh in as is currently required? She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion and for at least two providers to be involved in that decision, because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, I would certainly support more than one provider.
All right, let's go back to the phones now for the governor. We're going to talk now with Mike, who's calling in.
Okay, so like, so what are your thoughts on this, Corey? Here are my thoughts. Okay, so I don't agree with abortion really, at just about any stage. Although I do support and have used Plan B. I don't necessarily agree with abortion. Like I've seen what I know, like I've seen visually what it is, like, you know, literally what they do is like they stick tools up the woman's vagina and like blends the fucking baby, blends it up, like literally chops it up inside, and then like vacuum sucks it out, dude. And then like they just put the remains in like a bucket. It's fucking horrible. And, you know, there's a debate, and of course the abortion debate has classically been centered around like, okay, when does life start? You know, a lot of Christians will say, oh, it starts the moment at conception. Well, actually, that's the official Christian thing, is that, you know, it starts at conception. And, you know, I think anything is possible. Like, you know, it's possible that maybe that is life. You could consider that human life. I had seen or read somewhere like when a sperm reaches an egg, it has like an electrical spark or something like that. Hold on a second. I tend to do this, just like divert into other things. Hold on a second. Sperm, egg, conception, electrical spark. Fireworks reveal when human egg is fertilized. When an egg and sperm meet, there are actually sparks. Flash of light at conception discovered by scientists.
Scientists have captured the bright flash of light that marks the moment of conception when the sperm meets the egg. It seems that it all begins as an explosion of tiny zinc sparks that erupt from the egg at the exact moment of conception, and it's never before been captured. It's seen now in a bright flash of light that scientists have managed to capture for the first time ever, and it comes across as fireworks seen on film. Well, they have seen this phenomenon occur in other animals before, but this is the first time they've ever managed to capture it in humans. Now, Professor Teresa Woodruff from Northwestern University, who was part of this amazing discovery, she said to see the zinc radiate out in a burst from each human egg was breathtaking. So what we're talking about here is the zinc spark that happens at the moment when the sperm meets the egg, when conception happens. Some are saying it's the start of life. That's obviously another debate that I'm sure will ensue. But they first discovered this zinc spark just 5 years ago in mice. And now this is the first time that they've seen the zinc spark radiating out from each human egg. And what this means...
You don't think she's hot? Is that Joe Ankle? She looks alright.
For the future of things like IVF technology, for example, is that you can see when conception has occurred in the best possible way. And incidentally, some flashes are brighter than others. And what they are deducting from this is that the brighter the flash, the better the egg, a good egg or a bad egg. So you can basically tell when you've got a good quality reaction that's happened, when perhaps genetic mutations may not have been passed over, and so you can really use it to weed out the good eggs from the bad eggs. So obviously this will have huge implications on the future of IVF technology, and not to mention the debates over, we will continue to have, I'm sure, forevermore, over when the moment of life begins.
Yeah, okay, well, regarding that, I mean, I think this is interesting, first and foremost, and I'd love to see like a video of that, if that even exists yet, or whenever they release it, I would love to see it, because that visual looks pretty cool. But at the same time, you know, I just think it's simply part of the biological process. I don't think this points us in any direction whether or not this is actually where life begins, just because there's a flash of light. What are we saying? Like that's like the soul or something like that, just because it's a flash of light. You know, a lot of things happen. I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can capture on film here, But I don't think just because one is a flash of light that represents life.
Sure, we have to remember this is a chemical reaction. We're talking about zinc here. We're talking about fireworks. We're talking about energy from a sperm and an egg going in and creating a different type of energy, a transformation. So yes, this argument will continue to happen in terms of pro-life, pro-choice, these sort of things. But what they will definitely be able to do from this is be able to tell us a lot more about what goes on at that moment of conception. It's been so hard to document these events so far, and there's still very little known about what actually happens at that moment of fertilization. So even just to see that there's this explosion.
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It's because at the end of the day we are all energy, atoms, protons, neutrons, and at the smallest level there's space in between atoms. But what's also crazy is that like at the smallest level, like at the quantum level, we're actually all connected.
Abortions in cases which a woman's life or health is at grave risk and has to be certified by 3 physicians.
Right, and under the new law there would only be 1 physician, which an unscrupulous abortion provider could sign off on any reason.
I want to play this clip of Delegate Tran, who's responding to questions from Virginia House Majority Leader, Republican Delegate Todd Gilbert, about how far along in a pregnancy an abortion could be considered. Let's listen.
Where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand
at
that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
What's interesting is her facial expression when he says dilating. She's like, she does one of those like nervous little face scrunches, like, you got me. Ooh, I wish you didn't say that. Oh, not everybody should know about that. See this shit? Like,
where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth.
Look at her face
She
when
has
the
physical
guy
signs
says dilating.
that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand
at
that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
So when a baby is when the woman is dilating, when the baby's head is poking through the vagina, just you could still abort the baby. Imagine that, a full-grown newborn about to come out. Fucking Saw 9 and shit on the baby. It's so evil. It's so evil. Mini-me, we're going to chop up babies.
It's just heart-wrenching to hear her describe that and her say that her bill would allow that. Part of me has compassion for her because I really do think that she's being used by the abortion industry and selling a bag of goods that's just not true. And you could see how she was struggling there to answer that and not wanting to answer that. And I hope that she realizes exactly what her proposal will do, and it's going to be very detrimental for women.
Before we get off of this topic, I just want to say that the spokesperson for Northam recently came out and said no woman seeks a 3rd trimester abortion except in the case of tragic or difficult circumstances such as a non-viable pregnancy or in the event of severe fetal abnormalities, and that the governor's comments were limited to the actions physicians would take in that event. Let's move on to New York. Are you concerned that abortion bills like this one, like the one in New York, which allows abortion up until the day, right, that day before birth or of birth, are going to drown out the message of pro-life Democrats? You work for Democrats for Life of America, Kristen Day.
You know, I think this abortion extremism is going to help the pro-life movement because I'm hearing from more people who say that they can't vote for Democrats if they continue to push this abortion extremist measures like they did in New York and trying to do in Virginia and New Jersey and other states. So this abortion extremism is actually pushing Democrats out of the party and raising our voice as pro-life Democrats to say this is wrong. I think there's a March for Life in Virginia in April, so there is going to be a large contingent of pro-life Democrats.
You're going to be seeing a lot of people at that march.
Yes,
right?
And there'll be a lot of pro-life Democrats there saying that enough. We do not want to become New York. We want to be a state that protects women, supports women, and
That's something you never hear every day. Pro-life Democrat?
provides support for women to carry their pregnancies to term. That's what we stand for as Democrats, and all Democrats can rally behind that.
Kristen Day, Democrats for Life of America Executive Director, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's a good segue into this next video. Which I thought was interesting.
For aborting unborn babies.
Some people say prenatal screens will identify Down syndrome in the womb, and those pregnancies will just be terminated. It's hard for me to sit here and say those words.
They also say it's just a ball of cells. It's not a person.
It's killing babies, seriously. It is a baby. It's
Cells! It's a red cell! The point is, this angry mob, all the trouble you're in, it can all go away. All you have to do is admit to everyone that there are no little people living on that speck, that you were wrong, and I was right.
You could say we're all just balls of cells and justify taking our life all the same. These are human beings, even though they're so small.
A person's a person, no matter how small.
Many conservatives and Republicans were warning us years ago, saying these Democrats will push until babies are being aborted up until birth. Well, now here we are.
If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not what happens in these cases.
Well, I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to see if I can schedule an abortion even though I'm literally about to pop any day. Let's see if I can schedule an abortion based on some of the exemptions and loopholes that this new law allows for. So we've actually found an organization that deals with late-term abortions. It says right here on their website, we provide assistance to women in New York with late-term abortions.
So there's 3 other clinics, two other clinics, one in Colorado, and then the other one is in New Mexico.
Those are other ones that might be able to help me.
Yeah, there are other clinics that provide advanced gestation abortion care.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Hi. I was referred from abortionclinics.org. I wanted to see if I could get an abortion or get information about late-term abortion.
Okay. Have you had an ultrasound done?
No.
Okay. When was the first day of your last normal period?
Sometime in May.
Do you know when in May?
No.
Okay. Is there anything wrong with the fetus?
I don't know.
Okay, so your tests are elective limit at this time. Once we're past the elective limit, this is done on a case-by-case basis, usually for something wrong with the fetus or the health of the mother.
Okay, well, you know, what do I need to do if I, can qualify for some of those reasons?
Well, we have to do what's called an intake. And, the thing is that we would, if you don't know if there's anything wrong with the fetus, we have to have a compelling reason, like your health is in danger or something like that, for us to do a termination at this point in time.
What if I have depression?
Well, we'd have to take that down and we'd have to review it. The doctor would have to look at it. We are looking at what we call a labor and delivery process this time. So you would be needing to be in Albuquerque from a Monday evening or afternoon to a Friday evening or afternoon. We would be going through 2 days of preparation of the body, and we would induce labor. So you would be going through active labor and delivery, but it would be in a stillborn. And if the doctor approved you, if she did by any chance, we're probably looking at a $17,000 fee at this point in time.
Okay. So you said 17,000 or 1,700?
17,000.
Okay. Okay. Well, what do I need to do to be able to go forward with this? Like, do I need to be able to set up an appointment or do an ultrasound?
It would be best if you do an ultrasound. Is there somewhere there you can go get one done to try to nail it down, since you don't have a set menstrual date in May? That's what we would need. Is we would need to have a little bit better idea how far you are.
Okay.
So if there's somewhere where you can go to get an ultrasound, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
You can proceed.
Yeah, I can do that. I could maybe go to like Planned Parenthood or something, get an ultrasound, and so all I need is an ultrasound, and then you guys will help me with an appointment.
Well, I can't guarantee anything. The doctor has to review this. She ultimately decides on the information that you give us.
Okay.
So, but let me ask you a couple questions. My mind just went off. So, are you calling from New Mexico or are you calling from out of state?
Yes.
Which?
Oh, I'm calling from out of state, but I'd be willing to travel or fly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We also need, if you go to get an ultrasound done, there's 2 other pieces of information you need. We need to have a blood test, a hemoglobin for anemia, and we need to have a blood pressure. Those 2 things.
Okay.
So if the Planned Parenthood asks them to do those 2 things as well, okay?
Okay.
All righty then.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. So there you have it. All I need to do is go get an ultrasound at Planned Parenthood. Even though I'm very much late in my pregnancy, I'm technically full term, and these doctors will review whether or not they think I have enough of a mental illness or an exemption to essentially kill my baby. The really alarming part about this was the fee for the abortion procedure. $17,000 is a lot of money. This is what we're looking at here, where it's pay for murder, essentially. Imagine if I went and hired a hitman to kill off someone, and I paid that hitman $17,000. Essentially, I'm just paying off these abortion doctors $17,000 to kill my baby for me. Pretty creepy. So you know what? Let's go ahead and get an ultrasound and look at my baby and see whether or not it's just simply a ball of cells that deserves no protection over its right to life. Going into the ultrasound, I expected to see a fully developed baby, but even I am shocked at just how alert and how self-aware babies are in the womb. My baby kept opening her eyes, looking around, as though she was listening to our voices on the outside. She yawned, sucked on her hands.
Wow, ultrasounds have come a long way. It looks like almost CGI or some shit.
Stuck out her tongue, and even smiled. Her face was so full of expression and life. Although her voice has yet to be heard, she has a name. She's self-aware. She dreams, and she even feels pain. In no way does she differ from a newborn baby outside the womb. Yet why does her life matter less, according to our laws, simply because she has yet to pass through the birth canal? We have the science and technology to witness, via ultrasound, the clear evidence of life before us. How can so many deny this truth? And for those of us that don't deny this truth, are we really doing enough to protect the lives of the most innocent and vulnerable among us?
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. I guess that leads us into this next video because the governor, Ralph Northam, that was in the previous clip that we showed earlier about, oh, the baby will be kept comfortable and, resuscitated or whatever the hell, like, before we murder it. We're going to look at the recent revelation. Yeah, Millie Weaver is also pretty hot too, yeah. We're going to look at this video. So, this guy, his medical...
Scandal erupting over the Democratic governor of Virginia. Virginia's Republican Party says he should resign if he's one of the people shown in a page from his 1984 medical school yearbook. The picture shows two people. You can see it right there, one in blackface and another in a Ku Klux Klan robe and hood. Bring back our legal and political analysts. Laura, what do you think of this? This is if it's him, it's a pretty big scandal out there.
If it's him in blackface, it's a problem. If it's him in the Klan, it's a problem. If it's him just pictures with his friends, it's a problem. And it's a particularly bad problem because we haven't heard a word from him. I don't know how long this has been up yet, but at least since this afternoon, and it's been radio silent from his camp. And he's going to need to say something pretty soon, but there's probably not that much that he can say to explain this. It's his medical school yearbook. He was an adult. There's not really much he can do here, and he's going to be in a really tough spot.
David, and take a look at the page. It's got his name on the top of that yearbook page from Eastern Virginia Medical School back in 1984. And as Laura says, we don't have a statement from him yet.
Not yet, which is really surprising. I mean, this has been several hours now that a Virginia political blog first put this up, that we haven't heard from them. In fact, we also haven't heard.
How could it not be him? It's his yearbook. He provided the pictures. The school is not like gathering pictures of him in the country with his car or something. Maybe the top left picture he took for school, like at a, maybe that's an official school picture. I don't know, but this is only in the 80s. That's crazy, dude. In the 80s. Wow. And now he's come out and said that it actually wasn't him.
From some other big Virginia Democratic players because they're waiting to see what Ralph Northam has to say. So there's just been this radio silence kind of thing going on right now. 1984, 25 years old. As you're saying, Laura, I've been spending the last several hours while we haven't heard from him yet thinking through what could he possibly say in this scenario if he is one of those two people depicted in that photo that is in any way going to be acceptable to people in Virginia. I think you can't just, it's going to be very hard to dismiss this as just a youthful medical school folly. This is going to be a real problem.
And this, the state Republican Party has already called for him to step down.
Yep.
And we haven't heard anything from the official Democrats.
So we did hear from the Democrats, the Virginia Democrats, they admonished the guy. Like, basically all the Democrats are on board saying, like, this guy should resign. I think Biden said he should resign or something like that. But very interesting that right after he went on the radio, said it's okay to kill newborn babies, he got caught as a fucking racist. Does not surprise me in the least.